Hi, welcome to my other show. My name is Susan Rushton, and this is Muse. This is the show on which I'm privileged to, I'm allowed to, I'm delighted to interview people who are visited by the Muse, the artistic Muse. And some people who are visited by the Muse are also visited by people who are visited by the Muse, and this is one of them. My guest today is Miles Marek, who is the brand spanking new executive director of the State Theater, taking over from Janice Wyckoff, who was doing that for about 17 years, and now she's resigned, and Miles has come from Tennessee to take over. Welcome, Miles.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Susan. Appreciate it.
Great. And so when we were before, oh, by the way, I need to, whenever I talk about the State Theater, I need to let you know that if you want to learn more about the State Theater, go on to livefromauburn.com. And if you want to ask a question of Miles, log on, send him an email, miles@livefromauburn.com, or drop by the State Theater, and maybe you'll be there, maybe you won't, at 985 Lincoln Way, that wonderful big building with a marquee in the front. Miles.
Yes.
Why did you come here from Tennessee?
Well, that's a good question. Easy to answer. They hired me.
Hired me?
It's California. Okay. We've been, my wife Kathy and I have been California dreaming for quite some time. I have a sister who lives in the Bay Area. Kathy has two daughters who live in Los Angeles and work in the business, and we're just really delighted to be here. I think we found the most wonderful corner of the state by many accounts. We've had picture-perfect weather every day since we've been here for 3 weeks.
Well, just wait till fall.
People warn me that it's, but you understand, East Tennessee is considered to be a temperate rainforest. And when it rains, it really does pour.
Yeah.
And it rained about 10 days straight during our move, which made the move more difficult.
Yeah.
But getting here and having this crystal clear blue skies and this cool weather and everything, it just made us feel that much more welcome than all the people we've met so far who have been just wonderful to us.
You're in Auburn.
Yeah, it really is a lovely, lovely community. And moving and making a transition like this during a pandemic, we pretty much did it sight unseen. We haven't been here before.
Right.
We didn't get a chance to come here and look for houses and that sort of thing. So we did it on faith, and we were rewarded. We really are delighted to be here.
Great. So they interviewed several people, and what did they see in you?
I don't know.
Come on!
You'll have to ask them.
What do you think they said?
You'll have to ask the committee. I can't imagine. I'm just waiting for buyer's remorse.
Okay. What's your experience, buddy?
So I started out in the business as an actor many years ago. I studied theater in college and pursued that in New York for a number of years. Very limited success. Everybody is not cut out for that. Mm-hmm. I found my way after a number of entrepreneurial things. I had a contracting business for a while. I worked as a cabinet maker and a finish carpenter, and
perfect for sets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
although, yeah, that's another story. So, but I found myself, with a bunch of theater people thinking we'd start a theater company, and we did that. This was in Connecticut after I'd lived in New York City for a number of years, kicking about. And what we started in Fairfield, Connecticut, grew into something, that is still going today and very successful.
What is it?
It's called the Fairfield Theater Company.
Okay.
And we started doing that, and we were bringing off-Broadway shows from New York City out to the suburbs. And some of it was really innovative, interesting plays. And then we started doing concerts. We had chamber music, and we had blues artists, and we were very successful at that as well. And then it expanded. We took over another theater the next town over. We had eventually multiple venues, and we were running north of 200 concert events a year.
Ooh.
And so that lasted about 11, 12 years for me.
Mm-hmm.
Before I moved on. I actually turned my sights back towards New York City, where I got involved in producing a couple of Broadway shows. And then I took over a small theater in Manhattan. And that's when I saw the notice for the Paramount Theater in Bristol, Tennessee. And I applied for that job, and they hired me. Don't ask me why. I can't tell you.
You have some experience.
Their decision. So that was a company, that was a community theater, but the Paramount was a 750-seat classic 1931 movie theater, just like the Auburn State Theater. And it was in need of help. And I took that over 6 years from really a struggling company to quite profitable, busy place doing north of 100 shows a year. We had great artists, all the top country artists coming through. And Bristol was a great town, really considered the birthplace of country music.
Oh, my.
And very historic, lively community where you just simply can't throw a stick without hitting a fiddle player. But
that's okay.
So,
lively and artsy. Yeah, that sounds like Auburn.
Yeah, very much. Very similar communities, but every now and then I just get restless and I want to get up and move. And I still have the same job feed open that those online job things where you put your resume in and they send you notices. Mm-hmm. I won't name the service, but I still had it open from when I found the Bristol, Tennessee job. Okay. And this Auburn job came up, and it just looked really intriguing. And I applied, and we had great conversations during the interview period, and they made me an offer, and I'm here.
Well, great.
And I have to say, coming to Auburn, Janice and all of the people who took it from, a rescue job to what it is now, have done such a careful job and been so smart about it that it doesn't feel like I'm coming in having to save the place.
No, you're not.
I think their idea, the board of directors, is that they'd like me just to take it to the next level.
Okay.
And so I'm here trying to get a sense of the community, what people want, what people will respond to, what are the potentials, to expand programming, to create a more diverse regional audience, and draw on the resources from California. It's the tools that I bring to the process are basically, knowing the business, knowing how to navigate the music industry, and how to bring great artists to the room, find the right artists, put them in the right room at the right price, and build an audience. But we have, a really solid foundation to work with here, and that's a credit to Janice and all the people she's had around her for so many years. So,
yes.
and by the way, she's off doing her own thing now, but we will drag her back in when we need her.
You hear that, Janice?
She's not that far. Only a phone call away.
Yeah.
So, but I've just found that everybody's been so helpful and so warm and welcoming here.
That's great.
I really appreciate it.
I am not at all surprised. It's a wonderful organization.
Yeah.
And that organization is the Auburn State, the State Theater in Auburn, live and available and visible on the street and online, livefromauburn.com. Why were you involved in theater to begin with?
I've been doing it since I was 10.
Yes. Why?
I don't know. Who knows these things?
You do it because you can.
You do
it because you're interested in it.
It's one of those things, it's like if somebody had given me a baseball glove early on, I might have become I don't know. I can't catch fish. I've tried fishing. I don't know. It's just something I got involved in at a very early age, and I've stuck with it because I enjoy it and
what do you like about it?
Involved.
What makes you keep doing it?
It's sort of an addiction, I think, honestly. It's something that once you start and you get into it and you do it, it's showbiz. I wouldn't recommend it really to anybody unless they found they couldn't get through a week without, Look, there was a long period of time where I did other things. I made a pretty good living as a contractor and a cabinet maker and so forth. But I've always found myself just being drawn back into.
You heard the siren song.
Yeah, I
kept hearing it. Yeah,
I suppose. But it's interesting because, I didn't have a great deal of luck as an actor. And I always loved acting, and I would do it whenever lightning struck. I might get a part in something.
The acting is what people see. The acting is the top of the iceberg.
Right. Yes, that's a very good way to put it. Yeah. Everybody who is doing well as an actor, there are a group of people behind them creating the possibility and creating the environment and so forth. And whenever I got involved in these enterprises, a lot of times what happens in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago, the major markets for theater, it's actors who come together and put together their own projects, and then they get noticed, and commercial forces take over when the gods smile on them. But
so that Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland cliche of "Hey, let's put on a show" is the real thing.
Not really. Oh. No, it's really it's a lot more. It's a lot more work than that. But whenever I got involved in one of those enterprises, I found myself sort of ending up. Because I had run my own business, I had been a contractor, I'd done other things.
You knew how to manage.
I knew how to balance a checkbook. I knew how to manage capital and create cash flows and make sure things got paid on time. And that's not
very valuable asset to a theater company.
They don't teach that in theater schools. But I had to learn that the hard way. And so in those cases, I usually ended up, I found my way into the role of the producer. And that's what I've been doing for most of the last 20 years, is producing and presenting.
The David O. Selznick of community theater.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch. No, in a very quiet, low-key way.
Okay. You're
actually,
right. Not David O. Selznick.
I did figure it out recently because Actually, my wife Kathy was saying, you don't realize how much you've done. You don't realize I tend to, I just go to work every day and I do it.
Yeah.
But what that's meant for the last 20 years, basically the entirety of this century so far, is somehow as a producer or a presenter, occasionally as a performer, I've been involved in a live professional event 1 out of every 3 days for the entire 21st century so
Wow.
far. So about close to 3,000 events.
Wow.
So,
That's wonderful.
but that's a lot of that's mainly concerts. I've been a promoter, producer, presenter of a lot of concerts. I had a part in producing 2 Broadway shows, each of which were limited engagements. Those tend to be 100 performances. And on top of that, yes,
I mean, on purpose, 100 performances. If things
well,
had
they were booked as limited
Yeah, yeah.
engagements, so
Okay.
they could only go so far. The and the other things are plays, workshop performances, off Broadway plays that we presented. Children's theater workshops. In interesting community events surrounding senior citizens and all of the things that come into running a community theater
Community
like the
theater.
Auburn
Yeah.
that are so important to the life and the cultural life of the community. And honestly, some of that is the most rewarding things that we've done. For a while in Connecticut, we were producing so many concerts, but it was the chamber music, the local chamber music group that I found to be, just so much joy sprang from those kinds of things. And those were the things that the people took home and really remembered. And of course, that you can always get people to crowd the room for the major artists, like presented B.B. King on a couple of occasions, and Katie Lang, and the Doobie Brothers, and the Smothers Brothers. And those are the things that people flock to from a wide radius. And we'll get some of those people here in Auburn.
Yes.
Because I think the potential for the Auburn State Theater is to grow beyond the Auburn community itself and start to serve the wider region.
It has. And in my experience, I've talked, I have an opinion column in the Auburn Journal, and I have to talk to people around me so I can quote these people. auburnjournal.com. I have to get names to quote in my column, and I've sat next to people who are not from Auburn, from Sacramento, from Folsom, from where they have their own fabulous theater.
There's a lot going on around here.
Yes, yes. So it's lots of people who do not live in Auburn come here, even though they don't live in Auburn.
Well, that's one of the things that I did during the interview process. As I did a little research, and I found that something like 2 million people live within 40 miles range, driving distance.
Yes.
And I've had the experience of presenting shows where people drove, 300, 400, 500 miles to come see the show, or they flew in. I had a show once where people found out about the concert online and flew in from Finland to Connecticut.
Wow.
Because it was a combination of very important blues artists that were probably never going to had never been in the same room for maybe 20 years and probably were never
boy.
be seen again. So people really, it's amazing how far people will travel to see the artists that they really want to see.
Yeah.
And if promoted properly, with the tools we have now with the internet and social media, it's possible to attract audience from a very wide geographic zone. And you can also, you build a much more diverse audience at the same time.
Yes.
Especially if you can, attract people who love the blues or people who love country music or American folk music or chamber music or so to have this as much variety on the calendar as possible.
And once they come, if they haven't come before, once they come, they know where it is, and because they have enjoyed themselves so much, they're bound to come again.
So what we want to do is we want to make the Auburn State Theater in and of itself a destination. We want to make, and we're going to do all kinds of work on the digital infrastructure, the marketing infrastructure, but we want to make the Auburn State Theater's website the first place people go to find out what they're going to do this weekend. It's interesting right now. There's a lot of people moving into the area from the Bay, and a lot of those people are going to be telecommuting, work from home all day. Most people want to get out at night.
Yeah.
And Auburn's, what better place to come down and see a live show, go out to one of the many
wonderful places to eat.
Yes. Oh my God, we're so happy to be. Not to knock East Tennessee, but compared to Auburn, it's a little bit of a food desert. We are so thrilled.
Good.
There's a couple places we've been to 3 or 4 times already.
I'm not at all surprised. Yes.
It's a great town for food. There are a couple of kind of hard statistical things that you can go off of that. In general, in America, television is king. It's more and more so with live streaming and all of the ease with which people.
Yeah.
So theaters don't really compete with each other as much as they compete with the remote control and the sofa that has the cup holders and the big flat screens.
Or your laptop.
The laptop, the small screen. And only about 7% of Americans actually get out of the house and go to live arts and entertainment.
Oh, Miles, really?
I think, it's surprisingly small percentage.
Because I think about being surrounded by an audience and getting it better than getting where I am and what we're doing and what we're enjoying better than seeing it on my little phone.
Right. No, look, don't get me going. I've been to, a few years ago, Kathy and I went to Paris, and we were in the Louvre, and we were walking past all those magnificent paintings and sculptures and everything, and people are wandering by with their their iPads. They've got the big iPad and they're holding it up to the painting and they're walking by the paintings and they're looking at their iPad. They're not even looking at the paintings. Okay. So the same thing holds true. I mean, relatively few people even get out the house anymore and get in their cars and drive to a theater. So we have to make that more interesting and more, but on the numbers, when you you have 2 million people within driving distance, you really make an effort to reach out to them, let them know what's going on. So what's 7% of 2 million? That's 140,000 people.
Okay.
Right?
Good. Okay. Yes.
So,
yes.
140,000 people. Can we get a... And 140...
Might even be more.
But 140,000 people, the Auburn State Theater only has 340-something seats. So how many times can you fill that if you have 140,000 people who might be willing to come down and see something? Give them something worth coming down. Give people something worth getting out the house.
Okay.
And we can all come together, and the Auburn State Theater is this beautiful little campfire that we can all gather around and see something worth remembering.
Campfire. Excuse me, I have to write that down.
CAMP. So
So let's say that again. He said that the State Theater is this wonderful campfire that we can all gather around. It means that it's very, very, very old fashioned.
I feel, and I always have, that live entertainment is one of the things that makes us human. And it goes back to the dawn of civilization, when we sat around a fire
told
and
each other
listened to stories
and played music and
yeah.
did the
And
drums.
before we had social media telling us what to think and pumping our heads full of ideas we never, we had people who traveled across the countryside, and they turned the news of the day into songs and great epic poems, and they recited things from memory in front of, an eager crowd who, this is what excited people. And this is how ideas went abroad.
Yes.
And it's what we do in theaters today is just an extension of that core bit of humanity that we share.
It's something we have in common with Greece and ancient Greece and the theater there. And
I have another theater. I would love to try this in Auburn, but I don't think they'd let me. The ancient Greeks had a wonderful business model. They built all those great marble amphitheaters. And it was outdoors, and they, Aeschylus and Euripides and Sophocles wrote these plays that have lasted thousands of years. And theater was mandatory. When they put on a play,
everybody had to.
You had to go. It was free. There was never a charge or a ticket, but it was mandatory.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now I think California is probably a good place to try that. Maybe
you have to go to the theater.
Believe me, I would love to try that. I don't think they'd let me do it. I think they want to be able to pay the bills. So. But
donations gladly accepted.
No, they didn't. You would, if you didn't go, you had to get out the house and come down.
They hunted you down and said, "Come." Yeah. Okay.
So,
I had no idea. Wow. Okay. So you anticipate lots more people from out of town coming into Auburn.
Yeah, I expect the people of Auburn will come more often, more frequently too.
Well, especially since COVID is over, and is almost over.
I think we can expect. I'm not. A lot of people think that the audiences are just going to come flooding back because everybody's got this pent up boredom. There's still going to be a lot of residual fear.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be very, considerate about how we reopen, how quickly, and realize that the bounce isn't going to be something that's going to last forever. People have gotten really used to live streaming events.
Yes.
These experiments that people are doing, and actually some of the technology has gotten quite good and would not have advanced so quickly if it weren't for the COVID shutdown.
But still, we need to recognize that it's not the same thing as live performances and being with people and in a good.
And even for the Auburn State Theater is a movie theater as well, and seeing a movie in your den on the flat screen, it's amazing. You can get any movie that's ever been made on your screen in 5 seconds and part of whatever, very cheaply. But it's still better to see a movie on a big screen in a room full of people you don't know.
I agree with you.
It's just
you would always get me.
The experience is not replaceable.
I agree with you.
We're going to be trying to expand the cinematic opportunities as well.
Great. That's wonderful. So. Miles, I'm delighted that you came and talked to me, and I hope that I know I will see you again. Miles is the new executive director of the State Theater, and if you're interested in learning more about the State Theater go on to livefromauburn.com or drop by at 985 Lincoln Way. Thank you very much, Miles.
Well, thank you,
and
Susan.
welcome to Auburn.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very glad to be here.
Good. Thank you for watching.